focused on China. I think there needs to be a broader ban on foreign entities or foreign business interests buying up properties here. The other thing I'll say is I was really disturbed to find, because in his first term, he was pushing back against this, that Donald Trump approved the merger between Nippon Steel, which is a Japanese company. That Japanese company bought U.S. steel.
But it's an ally, you know, so that's the way.
I don't care. I don't care if it's an ally.
Just saying that's how he's justifying
I don't care. I don't care. We need to protect property and businesses in the United States. Full stop.
I actually agree with everything
in the United States. You want to know why?
Yeah, tell me why.
When you see the slaughter of all those innocent kids in Gaza, and our government provides cover for it, and in fact funds it, that leads to a lot of rage among hardworking Americans who see their quality of life go down the drain as we're funding a genocide.
The Democratic Party gives fodder to Republicans who are rightfully saying that these socialist Marxist policies aren't going to work. And honestly, it flames it. This is an electoral advantage for Republicans, I think, because a backlash against him will galvanize voters and encourage them to go to the polls, not just in New York, but across the country, because people don't want this. We rejected that in 2024.
Okay,
so
Annika.
I'm just curious, is there a day you wake up where you don't see terrorism everywhere? Because you literally just implied that this guy's a terrorist. And I found that bigoted, Islamophobic, and absolutely disgusting. If you don't like his policies, I can understand that. And we can have a discussion about those policies. But it seems like you just have a problem with the fact that he's Muslim. You have a problem with the fact that he looks a little different from other previous leaders. Don't interrupt me. I'm still speaking. I didn't interrupt you. Listen. The problem with that mayoral race is that the Democratic candidates who ran against him in the primary offered nothing. They offered nothing but the status quo. Andrew Cuomo was the former disgraced governor of that state who somehow thought that he had, I don't know, the entitlement to have his past erased and that people would totally accept him again. I'm really happy to find that the people of New York City rejected him because he's a complete and utter disaster. Now, as it pertains to Mamdani, we should actually talk about what he focused on as he was campaigning, because he actually did run a fantastic campaign, even if you don't agree with
it. Never called him terrorist.
It was gross. It's gross.
How are you condoning his use?
Clearly, I'm going to speak up about it, and no one's going to shut me up. Period. End of story. We see what's going on. The entire international community sees what's happening. The Israeli government wants to genocide and ethnically cleanse Palestinians, not just in Gaza, but the West Bank too. Look at the terror they're dealing with.
What I find amazing.
Americans are dealing with a housing crisis, drug overdose epidemic, unsafe drinking water, unimaginable economic inequality, a broken healthcare system, and more. Yet a whopping 78% of Israel's arms imports came from and were paid for by the United States. No money for Medicaid, but endless funds for genocide. So if anyone is wondering why all of these disgusting smears about Mamdani being a jihadist or an alleged anti-Semite, why they're not working, maybe it's because the candidate's economic priorities are shared by the very voters who helped him trounce Andrew Cuomo. Refusing to serve Israel before the American people should not be controversial. Refusing to prioritize New Yorkers as the mayor of New York City should be. So that's my take on Mamdani. So evidence and stories like these do not stop scumbags. And I mean that with my whole chest, okay? I'm saying it with my whole chest. Scumbags like Mark Levin and Chris Cuomo, by the way, from furthering their pathetic propaganda to provide cover for Israel's atrocities and war crimes. That is what is currently taking place. That is the reality of the situation. If it weren't the reality of the situation, journalists would be free to operate and do their jobs in Gaza to document what's happening. There's a very intentional effort to prevent the documentation of what's happening. It's not at all a coincidence in my mind that more than 200 journalists have already been killed in Gaza. And I'm sorry, Israel just announced not too long ago that they're conducting a ground invasion in Deir al-Balah. And it's interesting to me that the death toll has kind of stood still at around 60,000. I don't believe for a second that 60,000 is what the death toll actually is. I think it's much higher.
All right, before we continue, I got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, AccuFlow. You guys already know a lot of my videos get demonetized because of the type of topics that we cover. And so when a company actually steps up and says, hey, we want to support what you're doing, it means a lot to me. Now, I've been using AccuFlow lately, and it's honestly been clutch for keeping my brain organized Between working full-time, being a full-time student, a husband, a father, and running a YouTube channel, it's a lot. AccuFlow is like my second brain. It pulls all of my tasks, emails, calendars into one clean place. You can time block your day, use a Kanban board to organize your projects, and even add new tasks just by typing naturally. It just gets what you mean. Plus, their built-in AI assistant, Aki, basically acts like your virtual assistant. It automates stuff, keeps you on track, and even gives you smart nudges to improve how you work. And at the end of the day, AkiFlow helps you actually review your progress, not just keep chasing it. So if you want to stay productive without losing your mind, check out AkiFlow using my link, akiflow.pro/InamKhanNov. akiflow.pro/INAAMKHANNOV. Organize your life while also helping out this channel. Thanks again, AkiFlow. Now let's get back to the video.
You see the images on the ground. It's just absolutely brutal, and intentionally so. It's meant to be unlivable. The aerial bombardments, the destruction of infrastructure, the destruction of hospitals, universities, refugee camps, residential buildings, that's all intentional. So when Trump talks about, no one wants to live there. Like Gazans don't want to live there. I mean, it's unlivable. Yeah, it is unlivable. On purpose. It was made unlivable with the bombs that we American taxpayers are funding on behalf of the Israeli government so they can drop them, on the heads of these Palestinian people, destroy everything they have. It's just hilarious, right? To point to the awful situation on the ground that we aided and abetted, and then use that as the justification for the ethnic cleansing that is to come. So the hostage families, God bless them. I feel so terrible for them because their own government doesn't care about the hostages, clearly. They've been protesting, they've been demanding that the war come to an end, to no avail. If so, the Republicans think censoring or punishing, pro-peace or pro-Palestinian protesters is somehow going to fix any issues we might have in this country with anti-Semitism, they're wrong. They have an entirely different thing coming, right? And I think the left should have learned that lesson themselves. I don't think they have.
Well, it's tough for the left because they are sort of feeding into the stereotype that wherever two or more sort of pro-peace Palestinian people are gathered, it's going to, behind their back is this sort of cesspool of Hamas terrorists, right?
It's so frustrating to me because the vast majority of those protesters are not hateful, do not agree with what Hamas did, are not singing the praises of Hamas. Yeah. But you'll always have that handful of cosplaying revolutionaries who care more about themselves and getting their name out there by being needlessly spicy or edgy. And so they'll say disgusting, loathsome things. And it's so easy to take those few examples and make a blanket statement about all those protesters, when in reality, there's a ton of Jewish people included in those protests, right? They're not all anti-Semitic, they're not Hamas supporters, but for those who are looking to smear the protesters in general, it's easy to do it when you have that handful of morons who say moronic things. But in regard to the message that he's trying to put out there in regard to, corporate rule in America and money in politics in America, that is an accurate message. But you both make a great point about how money in politics has corrupted both political parties. And for the Democrats to pretend as though they're totally innocent of this is ridiculous to me, especially considering what we experienced in the last election cycle. I mean, Kamala Harris raised far more money than the Trump campaign did. And in fact, she raised far more dark money than the Trump campaign did. And then she moved forward in essentially squandering all of that money. And I think this past election really shows the kind of grift that exists within our election cycles, because that money gets spent with all these consultants and all these various, PR groups, and the amount of money they charge for their services, which have proven to be a failure in this past election cycle for the Democrats, is absolutely outrageous.
I just want to talk to you. So
well, you need to give me one promise.
Go on.
You have to give me one promise that you guys aren't going to do me dirty in the thumbnail for this video. You promise?
You know what? I can't promise, because we've done some corkers recently, particularly involving Cheng. But as he knows better than anybody, a great thumbnail drives more traffic, and that's the game we're in. We want people to watch what we're doing.
True.
Otherwise, what's the point? So we are very proud of our thumbnail.
I mean, if I look attractive, that might actually draw some more eyebrows. So think about it.
Wow, you're playing that card. Well, I admire it.